Needs shape. When a man has no internal boundaries, everything leaks, time leaks, energy leaks, emotion leaks. He becomes available to everything and grounded in nothing. Women didn't describe these men as too nice. They described them as hard to feel, because there was no resistance, no contour, no sense of where he ended and she began. Harvard found that women often tested this unconsciously. They would cancel plans last minute, go quiet for a day. Change the emotional temperature without explanation. Not to play games, but to sense structure. What happens when the rhythm is disrupted? Does he adapt calmly or does he bend himself out of shape? Men who maintained attraction responded with consistency. Not consistency of attention, but consistency of self. They didn't punish. They didn't pursue. They adjusted without apologizing for existing. One woman described it in a way that cut through all the noise. He didn't get upset when I changed plans. He just said, "No worries, let's do another time," and actually meant it. That sentence contains more attraction than 1,000 compliments, because it signaled something rare. His life didn't pause waiting for her availability, and that made her want to step into it. Harvard study showed that female desire is activated when a woman senses that being with a man is an addition, not a rescue. Men who subtly communicated, "I enjoy you but I don't need you to be okay," created a deep emotional pull, not because they withheld love but because they possessed it internally. This is where self-respect becomes magnetic. Self-respect is not spoken, it's felt in pacing, in tone, in decisions that don't require explanation. It's felt when you say no without guilt, when you say yes without urgency, when you leave without drama. Women in the study consistently reported stronger attraction to men who were willing to lose the connection rather than lose themselves. That doesn't mean being reckless, it means being rooted. Because a man who abandons his center for connection communicates one thing: I don't trust myself to stand alone. And no matter how kind, how open, how loving he is, that message quietly dissolves desire. Harvard's findings also revealed why boundaries feel so emotionally powerful. They create polarity. Polarity isn't dominance, it's difference. It's the tension between two whole people, not two halves grasping for stability. When a man has direction, routine, and inner rhythm, he creates contrast, and contrast invites movement. Desire doesn't move toward sameness, it moves toward presence. This is why men who are busy but not chaotic felt more attractive, not men who were unavailable, men who were engaged elsewhere. Their attention meant something because it wasn't endless. Their interest felt chosen, not automatic, and women felt that choice. In one of the most telling insights from the study, researchers noted that attraction increased when men did not over-invest emotionally in the early stages. Not because commitment is bad, but because premature investment removes mystery. And mystery isn't secrecy. Mystery is unfolding. It's the sense that there is more to discover, because the man is still discovering himself. There's a quiet mistake men make when they finally understand connection. They try to secure it. They open up faster. They invest deeper. They accelerate intimacy. Not out of manipulation, but out of relief. Because when something feels good, the instinct is to protect it. But Harvard's research revealed a paradox that feels almost cruel at first. Desire doesn't deepen through emotional acceleration. It deepens through emotional pacing. Women didn't report losing attraction because men were honest. They lost attraction because men tried to arrive too soon. They tried to turn connection into certainty. And certainty feels safe but not magnetic. Desire needs motion, not chaos, not instability, but unfolding. A relationship that reveals itself slowly allows imagination to stay alive. It allows curiosity to breathe. It allows anticipation to build. When everything is given immediately, nothing is discovered. Harvard's data showed that women often felt more emotionally drawn to men who allowed the relationship to develop in stages, without labeling, without rushing definitions, without emotional pressure. Not because they feared commitment, but because the man wasn't trying to control the outcome. He wasn't using intensity to create security. He was using presence to create trust. There's a deep psychological difference. Intensity feels good in the moment. Presence feels good over time. Intensity creates attachment. Presence creates desire. This is why women often describe attraction as something that grew rather than something that happened. It wasn't a spark, it was a progression, a slow shift, a deepening, a gravity. One participant in the study said something simple but revealing: "He didn't make me feel rushed, he made me feel chosen." Those are not the same thing. Rushing says, "I want this." Choosing says, "I see you." Harvard found that women were most drawn to men who responded rather than pursued, responded to interest, responded to energy, responded to connection, but did not chase it. This created balance, mutual movement, emotional reciprocity without emotional pressure. Here's the deeper layer. Female desire is tied to nervous system safety, not comfort, safety. And safety isn't created by constant reassurance. It's created by predictability of self. When a man is emotionally consistent with who he is, not who the situation demands, her nervous system relaxes. She doesn't have to manage him. She doesn't have to regulate him. She doesn't have to guess where she stands. She can simply feel. Harvard's findings showed that attraction flourished when women didn't feel responsible for a man's emotional state. Not because they didn't care, but because responsibility shifts polarity. When a woman becomes your emotional anchor, desire turns into duty. But when you remain your own anchor, desire remains desire. This is where masculine presence becomes misunderstood. It's not dominance, it's not control, it's not emotional suppression, it's self-regulation. The ability to stay emotionally grounded regardless of external fluctuation, to feel deeply without becoming reactive, to connect without collapsing, to care without clinging. This is what women described as calm confidence. Not performance, not bravado, stillness. And stillness creates tension, because stillness holds space. Space for her emotion, space for her curiosity, space for her desire. At the deepest level, Harvard didn't discover a trick, they discovered a state. A way of being that quietly reorganizes how women experience you without effort, without performance, without control. Because the final trigger of desire was never your words, never your looks, never your strategy. It was your relationship with yourself. The research showed something profound. Women felt the strongest, most enduring desire for men who were internally settled before being chosen. Men who weren't trying to become someone through attraction. Men who weren't outsourcing meaning to romance. Men who enjoyed connection but were not defined by it. This is the shift everything points toward. When you stop needing desire to validate you, you become desirable. When you stop chasing emotional certainty, you create emotional safety. When you stop trying to be selected, you become the one she leans toward. Harvard found that women often couldn't articulate why a man felt different. They just knew they felt calmer around him, more feminine, more open, not because he did more, but because he needed less reassurance, less control, less proof. He wasn't withholding, he wasn't distant, he was complete, and that completeness created polarity. Desire doesn't grow in emotional hunger, it grows in emotional abundance. This is why attraction often arrives when you're not searching for it. Why women suddenly feel drawn when you're focused, grounded, moving forward in your own life. Because your presence sends a quiet message. I'm here with you, but I'm not empty without you. That message relaxes her nervous system. And when her nervous system relaxes, desire has space to rise. Harvard's research didn't conclude that men should be less emotional. It concluded that men should be emotionally sovereign. Able to feel without flooding, able to connect without gripping, able to love without losing form. That's the dark truth and the liberating one. Desire is not something you create in her. It's something you allow by becoming someone who doesn't need it to survive. And when you live from that place, attraction stops feeling confusing. Relationships stop feeling fragile. And connection starts to feel natural, mutual, and calm. So if there's one reflection to leave with, not a tactic, not a rule, it's this. Are you building a life that a woman can enter, or are you waiting for a woman to become your life? Answer that honestly. Because the moment you choose yourself without closing your heart, desire no longer needs to be chased. It finds you.